Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro. It's time to review Steve McQueen's Lovers Rock, which we just saw, the virtual screening for the New York Film Festival. Lovers Rock is part of an upcoming anthology that the great Steve McQueen is directing. It is also apparently the second in the series. I am really excited to see all of the other films here because I think we have something very special. I was concerned at the idea of Steve McQueen doing television because to me, television seems to come along with like maybe a reduction in the quality of filmmaking. But here, this is absolutely not the case. In a very cinematic sense, this film is capturing like the energy of one night. It's really just about like fucking vibes. People dancing, having a good time. And a lot of these scenes go on for a very long time to the point where they have a hypnotic and like magical energy to them, which is completely separate from what I would expect from television, which might be like kind of trying to move you along and assume your attention span's like shorter. But again, this isn't really television, is it? It's 5 different films. This film is very much about the rhythm. It's about a community and a culture that's kind of surrounding this sort of music. And it's about the comfort that this community feels when they get together in a room that's full of music and full of people who want to find love. And it's very beautiful. That's what I try every single week. I just show up at like the random house parties and I say, hey, everybody. And I just like try to like get closer to girls and they're like, whoa, we don't know who you are. Like, it's okay. I'm just dancing. I wasn't even trying to get near you. It has, I think, a couple transcendent moments in here. I think there are 2 transcendent moments that are very beautiful in different ways. You know, I think that both these moments are sort of polar ends. When you watch the movie, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. Those were definitely the peak moments of the film. You know, it kind of reminded me of Climax. It was trying to capture like the spirit of people through dance and the music that they're listening to. There's sort of a main character who we follow for the most part, but I feel like this is more of a movie about a community. You get to know a lot of different people throughout the night just by like their presence, them being there and sort of in different scenes. It's a very contained film. So like you get a feel for who a lot of the people are. I really liked the DJ. He just seems so fun. Yeah. He was just very happy to like give people music and it was great. There were a lot of like great smaller characters. The film is absolutely gorgeously shot. That is another thing that I was not sure, like, are we going to get less of quality because we have 5 different films for Steve McQueen to shoot. Maybe he doesn't have as much time to invest in that, but it completely doesn't feel that way. Like, this is one of the most beautifully shot films of the year so far. There are just some like long takes in the film. The way the camera is like moving over everybody, it just completely immerses you in like what the movie's about, which is like very sensory. The cameraman was feeling it. Yeah. Whoever was operating the cameraman was like into it. And you feel it through like the camera movements. It's great. I feel like there's been a few movies like that recently that I can think of. Climax, maybe, and Then We Dance, where you kind of feel the rhythm through the movement of the camera, which I think is really cool. You know, going along with it being so cinematic, we both think like this film does not need to have dialogue. It could have been in a foreign language. I could have not understood what anyone was saying, and it wouldn't have taken like a single thing away from it because it's all about like body language and the nonverbal ways in which people communicate. I think Steve McQueen's visual filmmaking, as always, is like super strong. I mean, it makes me realize even more than ever that he's never someone who goes by the screenplay. You know, there are filmmakers that are more like that, you know, Alexander Payne maybe, but he's someone who really, he wants the visuals and the directing to tell the story first and foremost. The sound mixing also is fantastic. His content is often very brutal, and usually he uses his strengths as a filmmaker to express brutality, but in this case, he's actually doing it to like express joy, and it works, you know, just as effectively. One thread from his other films to this one is like the way that he uses these long takes, the way that he like prolongs a scene and like gets more out of it, like keeps fucking milking it. This is a huge testament to the editor who, it's just such an unrushed movie, but it also doesn't feel like it's overstaying its welcome. And it lets you like sit in scenes long enough that you get like inside of them. It becomes more of like poetry. Yeah, I mean, there's something to like a Steve McQueen moment. You know how the best moments of Widows were like, oh, Steve McQueen, like peak filmmaking, amazing. There are moments where you feel that in this movie, and it's just electrifying when you get those moments from him. In a film that takes place in 1970, when you have Black characters, you expect that there's going to be something that goes wrong, just because these are the stories that we're used to seeing, like, and there's nothing wrong with that. I know the rest of the series dives in more into civil rights, but it's really something special that you have a film where you can just focus on how these lives are actually lived and when they're like unaffected by society. It's just something you don't see a lot. Yeah, I was just so happy that Steve McQueen is like doing peak game shit, and I absolutely can't wait for the rest of the series, and I'm really curious how this is going to fit in with the other films. I have an idea, but I also want to know, like, there are some sort of threads that came up that didn't resolve. So I'm waiting sort of to see, like, are those in other films? Are these characters a little bit sprinkled into other films? Can't wait for the rest of the series. We got 2 more of them that we're going to see at New York Film Festival. I feel a little weird about rating this because I feel like it is going to fit into a larger anthology and it works on its own. If it were like just a standalone thing that had nothing else attached to it, I would probably go 8 out of 10. I can also see it fitting like completely perfectly within whatever larger thing this becomes, maybe even liking it more after that. I thought it was a delectable treat of filmmaking, and I would definitely go with a 9 on this one. In the context of the films I've seen this year, this is one of the best, even though it stands alone. This series just might be full of greatness. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. You like stomping your feet to the beat?